Hey guys, 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐜𝐫𝐢 here. Welcome to my channel. In today's video, I want to speak all about how IFS therapy, internal family systems therapy, can help you overcome chronic symptoms. By chronic symptoms, I mean any disharmony in the mind or body. Back pain, pelvic pain, stomach pain, migraines, fatigue, dizziness, anxiety, migraines. Did I mention migraines? Tinnitus. IFS therapy, once upon a time, helped me overcome my chronic stomach pain and back pain, and then I went on and trained as an IFS therapist, and now I've successfully helped hundreds of other people with their chronic symptoms. So in this video, very important video, a video I've been meaning to do for a while, I'm going to speak about exactly what IFS therapy is. I'm going to give a brief introduction to what it is, and then I'm going to speak about why it can help people overcome their chronic symptoms. So let's get into it. I didn't find IFS therapy straight away. You know, I did what everyone else does when they have pain in the body or when they have some sort of disharmony. I went to doctors for years and years. I changed my diet. I changed my mattress. I went to every single specialist, all the acupuncturists and all the physios, and you know, they were all wonderful. They were all really nice, but nothing really ever helped get me lasting relief from my symptoms until I started IFS therapy, until I started to learn how to use mindfulness meditation properly. So if you're watching this and you've tried lots of different things and you've gotten to my video, just as I once upon a time did, I found IFS therapy by accident. It was the last thing that I did. And I'm sure for you it could very well be as well, because of course we start by going to the doctor to see what's going on. And then when that doesn't work, we go into lots of different things. For me, it took years. It was over a decade of going to different doctors before finally, accidentally, I found an IFS therapist. I say accidentally. He was my meditation teacher. I was training to be a meditation teacher myself. And as part of my training, I had to have one-on-one sessions with this teacher. And he said, I do this IFS therapy thing. It's like an extension of mindfulness meditation. Let's try it. And we did. And then my stomach symptoms, my back symptoms started to change. They started to get weird. And I wasn't doing the therapy to help with those things. I thought, I have stomach pain because sometimes I eat the wrong things. And because I guess I have IBS. I have back pain because I have scoliosis. I just thought I was going to have that pain for life and I was at best going to manage it. I suddenly started to do this IFS therapy thing, which I'm going to describe in a moment, what the process entails. And all of a sudden, the symptoms of my body were getting weird. They were changing. And eventually, the more I stayed in the process, gradually they began to lessen, these symptoms. And along the way, I discovered something that I'd never been taught before, which was the reason why symptoms had become chronic in my body in the first place, was because I was repressing emotions. I wasn't allowing myself to feel certain emotions: fear, anger, shame, embarrassment. And IFS therapy showed me that I was bearing these emotions. It showed me why I was bearing them in the first place. And it taught me how to no longer bury them. IFS therapy. So let's go into what IFS therapy can help with. It can help with any chronic symptoms: IBS, stomach pain, back pain, fibromyalgia, fatigue, dizziness. I've written a whole list here. You're going to see me go down to look at my notes a lot in this video. Anxiety, depression, migraines, pelvic pain. It can help with any internal disharmony. And it may sound as if I'm being quite generic with it. Can help with anything. Just try it out. When you start a process like IFS therapy, you begin to discover that it doesn't matter whether you have stomach pain or acne or fatigue. It doesn't matter what's manifesting as disharmony. It's always the same thing. It's always occurring because you're not allowing energy to flow through your body. You're not allowing an emotion to be there. For different people, it shows up in different ways. For me, it showed up as stomach pain because it knew this is going to get 𝐬𝐭's attention. If we give him stomach pain, this is his weakness. Other people, they get stomach pain and they're fine. They just rest for a bit and then they go out as normal. For me, it floored me. Your mind will purposely give you symptoms in your body or in a way where it knows it's going to get you to stop and purposely go inside. Your mind will purposely give you symptoms in the body. This is the approach that I teach, the mind-body approach, because it knows it's going to get you to feel the very emotions it wants you to learn how to feel. I was afraid of my stomach pain. I was frustrated at my back pain. My mind knew if we give him stomach pain and back pain, he's going to feel fear. He's going to feel frustration, and we need him to learn how to feel these emotions. Let's speak about exactly why IFS therapy can help you discover that. So I'm going to give a brief summary of what IFS therapy is. There's plenty of videos online that can go into more depth. In this video, I'm just going to give you a summary. IFS therapy stands for Internal Family Systems Therapy. Basically, the therapeutic modality of IFS, it teaches you that the psyche is a series of parts. It's often called parts work for that reason. There are lots of different parts in our psyche, and they show up in our mind and body in lots of different ways. There are parts that feel anger, there's parts that feel guilty about the anger, there's parts that are afraid, there's parts that are trying to protect us from the fear, there's parts that are criticizing us, there are parts that are feeling shame, there are parts that feel joy, etc., etc. In IFS therapy, you go inside and you begin to learn all about these parts. You begin to learn that you've got parts protecting you from feeling certain emotions. You begin to discover that you have a whole host of protective parts of you, protecting you from wounded parts of you. So there were wounds that you went through in your life, potentially when you were younger or even into adulthood. And during those times, the emotions were so difficult to bear during those wounds, during that grief, during that abuse, during that trauma, that your psyche developed protective parts to protect you from feeling those emotions that felt like they were too overwhelming for you. And when you start IFS therapy, you begin to discover these protective parts and these wounded parts. In the IFS therapy, you learn about these parts of your psyche, and you also begin to learn that none of the parts existing in your psyche are bad, which is why the founder of IFS therapy wrote a book called No Bad Parts. What he was insinuating quite brilliantly from the title is it doesn't matter if a part of you is feeling happy, or a part of you is guilty, or a part of you is feeling shame, or a part of you is criticizing yourself, or a part of you is angry at yourself. No parts are bad. Every part wants to be validated. Every part wants to be welcomed. Often we go inside and parts of us don't like other parts of us. So parts will go, that part is bad. I don't like that part. And we begin to discover, we begin to learn how to welcome the presence of every single part of our psyche. We begin to agree with seemingly contradictory parts. We begin to say, there's a part of me that's angry at myself, that's welcome. There's a part of me that doesn't like the anger of to myself. There's a part of me that doesn't like the inner critic. That part's welcome. We begin to discover these parts and to learn how to welcome all of them. IFS therapy. So the therapist in an IFS therapy session will guide you with the eyes closed. And for that reason, I often describe IFS therapy as being an extension of mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness meditation is often taught in a way where the objective is to try to relax, slow down the breath, relax the shoulders, just relax, relax, relax. Whereas what you begin to discover, not only through the IFS therapy process, but if you're trying to heal from chronic pain, is there's a much more valuable objective to mindfulness, which is learning how to allow the presence of emotions rather than relax what's there. So instead of trying to relax the breath and relax the fear and relax the body, you allow everything to exist exactly the way it is. So you allow the breath to feel tight, you allow the body to feel restless, you allow the fear to exist as long as it wants and to get as big as it wants. Mindfulness meditation can be used for that reason, but often when someone starts a mindfulness meditation practice, they find allowing things to be so difficult, which is where IFS therapy comes in. Because in an IFS therapy session, like I said, it's done with the eyes closed. You have someone like me, or you have an IFS therapist to help you facilitate going inside and being with sensations in the body and being with emotions that are very, very challenging to be with. And when you have someone there holding your hand, teaching you that you can be with this, you can exist in this. I know it feels like it's going to overwhelm you. I know it feels as if it's going to last forever, but it won't. Let's stay in this a bit longer. IFS therapy can help you do that. And when you do IFS therapy, it helps you with your mindfulness practice. It helps show you when you go back to your self-practice. You meditate, you try to allow the presence of emotions. It helps you identify those emotions, and it helps you learn what to do with those emotions. So IFS therapy helps you to meditate, the short of it. That's a bit about what IFS therapy is. Our psyche is a series of parts, and there are protective parts, and there are wounded parts. The parts will show up in different ways in the body. They'll show up as sensations in the body. They'll show up sometimes for people as visuals, as memories. We'll remember younger parts, younger memories. Parts will show up in lots of different ways, depending on someone's system. And there are no bad parts. All parts are welcome, and in the IFS therapy process, we learn how to identify the parts and how to welcome all of them. Now, how does parts work? How does IFS therapy help with chronic symptoms? So what we begin to discover with parts work, session number 1, is there's lots of conflicts going on between the parts. There's a part of you that's angry at your kids, and there's a part of you that feels guilty towards that. There's not only a lot of conflicts going on inside, but there is also a lot of protective mechanisms happening inside. There's a part of you with deep fear and deep shame, and a part of you protecting you from feeling that because you think it's going to overwhelm you, or this part thinks it's going to overwhelm you. So when you go inside and do IFS therapy, you begin to discover there's lots of internal conflicts, and there's lots of parts of you protecting you from feeling big, overwhelming emotions. And when there are parts protecting you from feeling emotions and there's conflicts going on internally, that's the very thing that makes the mind create symptoms in the body, chronic symptoms in the body. And through IFS therapy, you begin to discover the reason I have chronic symptoms. I had stomach pain and back pain. You may have fatigue or whatever it is that you have, dizziness. The reason that's going on for me is because there's all these conflicts going on in my psyche. And because there's lots of protective mechanisms going on, protecting me from feeling this emotion. And what you discover through IFS therapy, you don't only discover the theory of that, but you also start to notice how it feels in the body. You start to recognize that we feel emotions through the body, as energy in the body. I feel my fear in my chest, or I feel my anger in my throat, or I feel my shame as a numbness in my stomach. My stomach has gone numb, whatever it is. And when you start to work with the parts in IFS therapy, you begin to realize that this part of me protecting me from feeling shame or protecting me from feeling fear, what it's doing is it's constricting the energy in my body. It's creating stagnant energy in my body. You begin to realize through IFS therapy that because I've been protecting myself from feeling this emotion, perhaps since I was a child, I've been consistently constricting energy in different parts of my body. I've spoken about on different videos, I speak about it to people in my community. When I was going through this IFS process myself, my eyes were closed, the therapist had me go inside, and I began to realize that I was protecting myself from feeling fear and protecting myself from feeling shame, the likes of which I've been doing since I was younger, a teenager. And I went inside. My therapist wasn't having me do this. He didn't have me go to a younger part of my psyche. My mind naturally went to a memory of being a young kid, feeling a lot of shame, and then a protective part of me saying, we can't feel that shame because it's going to overwhelm us. I found this out through the IFS therapy process. And in the IFS therapy, in my own process, I taught the parts of me protecting myself from shame. I understood exactly why they were doing it. I was welcoming this protective part. I get why you're trying to protect me. It makes sense that you're afraid of shame. But let's see what happens if we finally just let ourselves feel shame. Let's not try to relax this. Let's not try to avoid this. Let's not try to distract ourselves with pain anymore. Let's just be with this emotion. And it was big. There were tears. It was difficult to feel the shame. But then what my mind and body began to realize and discover, we don't need to give Jonty pain anymore so that he avoids the shame. Because Jonty finally is allowing himself to feel the fear, to feel the shame, we don't have to give him stomach pain anymore. Because the whole time, and I discovered this through IFS therapy, pain was being created in my body, or disharmony was being created in my body, because protective parts of me were not letting me feel certain emotions. And IFS therapy helped me discover that and what to do with that. So there's a question I often get when it comes to IFS therapy. Which parts of our psyche are creating the symptoms in the body? Do the protective parts create the pain in the body? Or do the wounded parts create the pain in the body? The answer really is, it's kind of, I don't know. Sometimes it feels as if it's a protective part creating the pain. It's purposely creating that symptom to get you to not feel the thing it's protecting you from. So it's purposely creating stomach pain to prevent you from feeling the fear it doesn't want you to feel, or the grief that you've never allowed yourself to feel. Sometimes it feels like actually the wounded parts are the parts that are creating pain because they're trying to get your attention. They're creating symptoms through the body because they need you to stop, go inside, and to be with their emotion, to be with the wounded part's emotion. So it's not always so clear if it's coming from a protective part or a wounded part, the pain I'm talking about, or the disharmony. But it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter because the theory of IFS therapy really is that there are no bad parts. All parts are welcome. The protective part is welcome to feel afraid, and it makes sense why it's been protecting us. And the wounded part is welcome to feel its shame or its fear or its anger. It's anger a lot of the time. Or it feels abandoned, or it feels hopeless, or it feels despair, or it feels doubt, or it feels confusion. Wounded parts can feel all kinds of emotions that society doesn't let us feel. Protective part is welcome, and all those emotions are welcome. It's all welcome, so it doesn't really matter which part is creating the symptom in the body. All that matters is you just welcome everyone. Everyone can be here. It makes sense you're protecting me. It makes sense that I am now confident enough to give the space to allow myself to feel hopeless and not think it's going to overwhelm me or take over. So symptoms can be coming from any part of the psyche, but it doesn't matter. If we're welcoming all parts of the psyche, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. So yes, through the IFS therapy process, you begin to discover that you've had these protective mechanisms for a long time. You validate them. You let them know you get exactly why they've been doing that. Maybe since you were 5 years old, they've been doing that. You let them know it makes sense that they're feeling afraid. And you teach them that maybe we have the capacity now, the strength to be with those wounded parts of us. Maybe we can exist in a state of doubt and confusion and uncertainty, and we're going to be okay in it. We're not going to... Protective parts often fear we're not going to be loved if we feel those wounds. We're not going to be accepted. In IFS therapy, you teach them it's going to be okay. So you validate protective parts, you validate wounded parts, the system relaxes as a result of that. That's actually what regulates the nervous system, allowing everything to be there. And then the symptoms, chronic symptoms, whether they're stomach pain, back pain, fatigue, dizziness, whatever it is that's occurring for you, they begin to ease off, they begin to lessen, because the system isn't trying to protect. There's not this big protection going on anymore. So I spoke about my personal example. In my IFS therapy process, I discovered there were lots of younger protective parts of me protecting me from feeling shame and disappointment and sadness and anger. There was a lot of anger I needed to feel that I wasn't letting myself feel. Not only because of my upbringing, but also because society doesn't really let you feel anger. And the IFS therapy process allows you to feel these emotions in what's called a safe space. You do it in stillness with a facilitator. You finally let yourself have the temper tantrum internally that you've never given yourself permission to feel. Because we can't do that in everyday life, really, unfortunately or fortunately. We have to be kind and civil and lovely to one another. So my process, I showed all my parts that I understood why they were there. I allowed them to be there. It's a process that took a couple of months of my mind and body. Really, you're retraining, you're reconditioning the mind. You know, neuroplasticity is often spoken about in the mind-body approach. You're reshaping your brain. You're reconditioning your brain. You're reparenting parts of your psyche. And that can take a bit of time. That took me a couple of months of going inside consistently, over and over again, and proving to my system, look, we're okay with the anger. Look, we're okay with the shame. Look, we're okay being disappointed. Even if these emotions feel irrational and they don't feel as if they're going to serve us in everyday life, consistently in my IFS therapy sessions and in mindfulness meditation sessions when I was by myself, I'm going to talk a bit about that as well, consistently going inside and allowing my protectors and allowing my wounded parts and allowing everything to be there, eventually taught my system that John C's safe to be in the body with any energy. We don't have to give him symptoms anymore. I learnt my emotions were never the enemy. So that's a brief summary. As always, I've done these videos just on the fly. I'm sure I've missed some things out. I think if you don't know much about IFS therapy and you'd like to learn more, please go and read No Bad Parts by Richard Schwartz. Watch other videos that maybe go into more depth. I very much rushed over exactly what IFS therapy was and gave brief examples. So please go and do more research about it. IFS is definitely best done with a trained practitioner. I'm not just saying that because I am a trained practitioner, just because there is some guidance in the books, but even the books will say to you, try and just go and work with a facilitator, because doing this alone can feel a bit tricky. about how to navigate through this. So books can help, but the sessions can really help you with the tricky bits. I know perhaps the process seems a bit complicated, but really when you do it with a facilitator, it's not as complex as it seems. Really what you're learning to do over and over again, if you're at the point of developing chronic symptoms, is how to be in the body. You're learning how to identify different parts, protective parts, wounded parts, and how to just let them exist as they need to be. I often tell people when they get into self-practice, you needn't even identify if a part is protective or a part is wounded. It doesn't even matter. If you're welcoming everything, it doesn't matter what's there, just let it be there. You needn't over-intellectualize in your own self-practice. Is this a protector or is this a wounded part? In the sessions with an IFS therapist, I'll very much do that. I'll say, okay, that's this and that's that. But when it comes to your self-practice, it doesn't matter what the part is because you're welcoming everything. So it doesn't matter. I feel afraid. I'm going to let that be here. Now I feel shame. I'm going to let that be here. Now I feel calm for a bit. I'm going to let that be here. Now I feel numb. I'm going to let that be here. Now I feel restless in my legs. I'm going to let that be here. Like I said, parts will often manifest as sensations in the body. So the purpose of the practice is to teach you to feel safer existing in what is the chaos of the body, the messiness of the body. There's a lot of fear one moment, and there's calm, and then there's restless, and then there's doubt, and then I feel like I'm doing it wrong, and then I feel overwhelmed. But over and over again, I'm just allowing myself to feel all of that in the body. So the IFS therapy process helps you do that. It's best done with a trained facilitator. Outside of IFS therapy sessions, you learn how to utilize mindfulness meditation in a way which the objective is about allowing what is rather than relaxing what is. This is a different way to meditate, and IFS therapy will show you how to do it. It will teach you how to meditate in that way, and it will also give you a bit more capacity to welcome what is. When you do mindfulness meditation in this way, at first it's going to feel all very abstract, and it's going to feel like you're doing the whole thing wrong and you're going to come out of it. If instead you do IFS therapy and you learn how to be in the body, and you learn that really big pain in my shoulder is actually a young part of me that's just begging for me to allow it to feel fear, you suddenly are able to welcome it a lot easier. And you only discover that in IFS therapy. Then when you meditate and you have that exact same sensation in your shoulder, you realize these are all just young parts of my psyche that want me to allow them to be here. I know it feels big, it feels dangerous, it feels scary, but I'm just going to exist in this. And IFS therapy taught me how. The goal of IFS therapy is teaching your system it's safe to feel whatever arises for you in the body again. It's safe to be out of control. It's safe to feel uncertain. Society has taught us that it isn't safe to be uncertain. We have to be in control all the time. So, which is a whole other video about how we need to be in control. So IFS therapy teaches you everything can exist. It can happen at any time. It can get as big as it wants. It can go in either direction. Everything's welcome. The protective parts are welcome. The wounded parts are welcome. It's safe to go out of control. I'm going to be fine. Outside of sessions, you do meditation. You continually, consistently teach your mind and body it's safe to be uncertain. It's safe to be out of control. It's safe to exist in whatever wants to manifest in the body today. That, in summary, is how IFS therapy can help you with your chronic symptoms. If you have any questions, anything you'd like to share, please do so in the comment section below. If you haven't joined my pain relief community, you can do so by clicking the link below. You can join for free and get a course on exactly how I assist people in helping with overcome their chronic symptoms. So you can get a free course in the community. There's a forum. You can speak to me in the community as well. There's other people going through similar things as you as well. That's it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully hear from you soon.